Kevin Davis is the head writer and editor for DividedUnderGod.com and is mostly known for being the co-founder of an organization called Young Skeptics. Young Skeptics, as he will explain, is kind of a counterpoint to the Good News Clubs. The good news in air quotes. So Kevin's going to talk to us about using reason to engage and, we could say fighting back, but really just, winning the battle that should be easy to win, but reason isn't always easily attained by several people, especially on the opposite side of the fence. So, welcome Kevin to the stage. Welcome, man.
Hi, everyone. Actually, I'm going to grab my water now so I don't have to do the Rubio reach in the middle of it.
As long as you made eye contact.
Yeah, right. Okay, so just by a show of hands, how many people here have heard of the Good News Club? Great. How many people have attended the Good News Club? Awesome. Okay, I actually want to change that and have more people attend the Good News Club, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Where am I pointing here? Here we go. Okay, so kind of a brief rundown of the Good News Club, and obviously everybody's heard of them, so I'll go through this quickly. For those unfamiliar, there are over 42,000 Good News Clubs in 180 countries around the world. It's run by an organization called the Child Evangelism Fellowship. There's about 5,000 Good News Clubs in the U.S. alone, and about 3,500 of those are in U.S. public schools. They tout that they teach the good news, but we find that they teach the good news through fear, intimidation, threats, and psychological abuse. They teach kids that they're inherently flawed, that they're evil, that they're deserving of death, and they try to sell them Jesus to cure them of their evils. They follow a literalist or fundamentalist view of the Bible and teach that to the kids. So most people, many people have heard of the Good News Club through a book written by Catherine Stewart called The Good News Club, The Christian Right's Stealth Assault on America's Children. In 2009, the GNC group opened where Catherine Stewart's children went to school. So she wanted to find out more about it. She investigated and found what they were about and traveled the U.S. kind of documenting what she found. And she ended up writing this book and really didn't intend to when she ventured out. So she found that the GNC's goals are to convert children to fundamentalist Christianity and encourage their friends who weren't in the Good News Club to join, especially if they were unchurched, as they call it, or don't belong to a church. So she concluded, actually, that there's more religion in U.S. schools now than there has been in the past 100 years of this country, regardless of kind of what the religious right says about us taking prayer out of school. So I belong to a group in Rochester, New York, called the Atheist Community of Rochester. It's just a meetup group, and a bunch of us got together and talked about the book, and we thought, okay, let's find out if the GNC is operating locally. So what we found was there was one GNC operating in our county, and it happened to be in Churchville, New York, which is the small town that I live in, which is a small suburb of Rochester. So I got pretty interested in that because I have 2 young kids now, and soon they'll be going to public school, and I wanted to know more about it and find out what they were doing. So our main issue really with the Good News Club was not that they were a religious organization. We're not exactly going to monitor and go after every church in the area, but really it was, how they were evangelizing, how they were, their methods through fear, intimidation, and abuse. So we wanted to find out what we can do in the area. what we can do about the Good News Club, what legal stand we have against them, and what we found is if we wanted to try to remove them based on a church-state separation issue, we could not. In 2001, they won a Supreme Court case that allowed them to stay in the schools and use the school as kind of a free speech organization to use it as a public facility like anyone could, regardless of what they were telling kids. So we really didn't have a leg to stand on there, and we also found that the CEF, their parent organization, has a lot of money, and that means a lot of lawyers, and we're just a little group in Rochester. So not much we could do about that. So we thought, let's see what we can do to remove them out of the schools because of the abuse they're doing to kids inside of school. What can we do about that? So we got a copy of our school district's acceptable use policy or facilities policy, conduct policy, whatever they call it. But we took a look at that, and there was a clause in there that said the groups that use the schools could not participate in intimidation, in bullying, and things like that. So we kind of had a way, okay, let's take a look at that and see what we can do about that. So we began attempts to do that. But we found that kind of gauging somebody's level of abuse or intimidation is really subjective. It requires support from the school superintendent, who I think, as we know, schools don't have a lot of money, and they don't want to get in a lawsuit by asking to kick a group out like that. So the districts open themselves up to legal action, and we really need concrete evidence to back our claims. We can't just say they're doing this and not have witnessed it and not have concrete evidence there. So our next plan of action was maybe we can raise awareness with parents. Maybe we can contact people in the community and say, this is what they're really doing. They may be sending home a permission slip that says, this is a great after-school group, and we have fun with kids after school, with fun and games and pizza and snacks and Bible stories. That doesn't sound too bad, right? And that's all the parents know a lot of times about the group. That's all they see is a permission slip, and they think, okay, you're going to keep my kids later. I don't have to get a babysitter, and it sounds great. They're going to learn some morality or whatever they think they get out of these Bible stories. So if we were to raise awareness with parents and tell them what's really going on, we're going to run into some roadblocks there. So Churchville is a small, historically conservative town, mostly a farming community. So we weren't going to win a lot of hearts going that way. So, and there's also no way for us to know who the parents are. There's no parent list that we can go on and contact people directly. So there's no real effective way to reach those people. I mean, we could put up flyers, we can get a newspaper ad and things like that, but we don't know that they're actually seeing that they're paying any notice. And we also thought about what the public perception would be, right? So this atheist group is now contacting parents about this Christian group, and we want them out, and we're trying to sell that our intentions are pure and we're trying to protect children, but we all know what they're going to latch on to. We're an atheist group, so we're angry. We are against the good news. We are poo-pooing on everything that they want to do. Just because we don't agree, and another piece of that is by just protesting where they are and trying to pull them out of the school and complaining about them, we're not really offering anything redeeming from the atheist community, which, as we all know, is already a community that's stigmatized, that people have kind of false precepts of. So another thing we thought we could do is monitor Good News Club meetings. So we found out when they were, what school they were in, and based on the facilities use policy, it was mentioned that anything that happens in the school has to be open to the public because they're using a public building. So that means we can go and find out what's up. So it serves two purposes for us. We can document violations of the conduct policy and report back to the superintendent. And it also sends a message to the Good News Club, who's not used to having any visitors other than parents picking up their kids, that we're watching, right? So they are now open to, or subjected to criticism. They are now under our microscope. So we had several different reactions from the Good News Club, and I'll get back to this a little later. But it went from anywhere from assigning us handlers to not letting us in altogether, to eventually calling the police on us for just sitting down, and trying to get us to sign a contract of what we could do and not do during their meetings. So this here is the New York State Director for the CEF. He ended up attending the meetings while we were there to see what we were doing, and he kind of led this intimidation crusade against us, where they were doing these very childish things, like sitting next to us and taking pictures of us, like really up close. Like, why? Who are you giving those to? You could take my picture, it's fine. And he's like having this fake conversation on the phone, like he's calling someone and reporting us. So we had to deal with these little things along the way, and you'll have a little bit more information about that a little later. So another thing we could do, besides just monitoring them, is we thought maybe we could start an Atheist Club. Fight fire with fire and counteract their efforts with a club about atheism, and present it in a positive way for kids. But keep in mind that these kids are in elementary school, so we're talking 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. How many kids do you know, especially in a conservative community, that would be out atheists? So we're looking at community that's gonna turn on us and say we are just doing the same thing that they're doing. We're trying to indoctrinate children into atheism. We're using the same methods as they are. And again, we're going to be open to a limited audience there. So we wanted to broaden the scope. Yet the other thing that I missed there was, we all know how mean little kids can be to each other, right? When somebody's different. So we don't want to open them up to getting backlash from their peers by being out atheists in a religious community. So we thought, what should we do, right? We should make a positive impact. So instead of just being this negative influence on a group that's doing what they think is right, which we know is not, we wanted to do something positive. We wanted to avoid the accusations of persecuting Christians in the area, which of course we're so easily accused of. We wanted to reverse the stereotype of being angry atheists. We wanted to do something positive for the community and promote critical thinking among the kids, regardless of what their background is, their religious background. And arm them with the tools they need to avoid this kind of aggressive indoctrination that's coming from the Good News Club. So we formed Young Skeptics. Young Skeptics, you ask, what is it? The mission of Young Skeptics is to promote and facilitate critical thinking and evidence-based learning among the youth of local school districts. We believe in discovery through tangible problem solving and the scientific method, and refrain from offering supernatural explanations for occurrences in nature. We are committed to teaching children how to think, not what to think. So just in our mission statement alone, thank you. So just in our mission statement alone, we are kind of the antithesis of the Good News Club, right? We are operating in stark contrast of their methods and what they aim to do, without being the group that is coming at them negatively and creating this huge conflict. We're actually kind of taking the high road, right? We're arming kids with what they need to make their own decisions and what they think is true about the world around them. So just a quick recap. The Young Skeptics is sponsored by the Better News Club. If you ever hear about the Better News Club, that's also us. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing that we came up with because we didn't have the name Young Skeptics yet, and we needed to get the ball rolling and get incorporated and get insurance and start doing some. We're like, oh, let's pick a name. Yeah, we're the Better News Club. And of course, somebody in the media comes at us and says, well, maybe they should change to the best news club. Yeah, I think we can keep going with that, right? So as far as I know, we are the first of our kind in elementary school level. If anyone knows of another group doing this somewhere or something like it, please let me know, because I would love to work together with them. Starting this from the ground up has been a struggle. So we're focused on critical thinking. We are open to all faiths. We even have kids that have attended the Young Skeptics that also attend the Good News Club. So we've been giving some kids some, a different perspective on things. We don't indoctrinate, of course, and we actually don't even mention religion. We don't mention religion. We don't mention atheism. It's not what that's about. We're talking about critical thinking, evidence-based reasoning, the scientific method, and things like that. So it's a safe space for kids to ask questions, which they don't have in the Good News Club. They are actually not allowed to ask questions or encouraged to ask questions. If I have time, I'll give a quick story about that later, but we empower children to make their own decisions based on observation and evidence. So why teach critical thinking, right? This is the information age, and kids have the internet. Kids this young have cell phones. We are bombarded by things that we need to use critical thinking to vet. This is my favorite. We're confronted with these things that people allege to be true, that people allege to be knowledgeable about. Yeah. Even past this, things like Illuminati, school shooting conspiracies, evolution deniers, psychics, fake historians like David Barton, the war on Christmas, fake quotes, claims from news stories shared on social media that make me visit Snopes at least like 3 times a day. So this stuff's out there, and it's easily shared. And a lot of people think, I see something here that promotes my view, whether it's not based on evidence or it is, and I'm going to share it because I like it, and it's probably not true. We see it all the time. So for the first year, we just started last year, our first actually semester, our topics were fact versus opinion, evidence, reasoning, and communication. Then what is a skeptic? What is a scientist? And then we had kind of a comprehensive thing at the end where we reviewed everything. And then we talked about atheism. No, we didn't. Just to give you kind of an overview of what happens in a Young Skeptics session, a sample lesson, this was probably our most popular one, was evidence. So we started off defining the terms, what is evidence, direct evidence versus indirect, like, what did I experience myself, what did I test myself, that's kind of direct evidence, and, what things did I hear from somebody else, that's kind of indirect. And we talked about, what's more accurate and what's better evidence and things like that. So then we went on to who uses evidence, right? And we end up finding out that everybody uses evidence. We use it every day in our lives, whether it's part of our profession, whether it's part of a hobby, whether it's just using your brain every day. We had a police officer come in and talk to the kids about how he uses evidence every day. The kids loved that. He came in uniform. He brought fingerprint kits for kids and showed them how to use that stuff. So we had an activity where we scattered evidence around the room, and the kids would go find it. So the evidence was a puzzle with big puzzle pieces. So we broke it up and scattered around the room before they came in. And when it was activity time, each kid would go get a puzzle piece and bring it back. And they worked together to try to determine what that puzzle was, but they only had one piece each. So the lesson here is that the more evidence you have, the clearer the picture gets, and the better your guesses get. So they started off with, kind of pictures that you couldn't determine what they were, and they'd make guesses, and some were pretty good, and some were pretty far off, and then they'd go get another piece and put it together, and after a while, it keeps getting better and clearer for the kids. So when we launched, and part of my job with Young Skeptics is I handle communications and press releases and all that stuff. So we got a lot of different attention around the country. We were in the Washington Post, And you'll notice that the focus of the media was not that we were encouraging critical thinking, that it was more that we were founded by atheists, that we were in this battle, which wasn't in the press release, but whatever. It gets us attention, so we're getting the word out about the club. We are in the blaze. You can imagine how that went. And the Christian Post, which actually wasn't that bad. But my favorite coverage that we got at launch was an article called "It's Really Atheism for Kids." Does anyone recognize the font? So of course it was off the wall and untrue and whatever, but I thought if we're pissing Ken Ham off, then we're probably doing something right. So I did reach out to some media outlets that really got it kind of wackadoodle wrong, but definitely didn't reach out to him. Made some corrections that we don't mention atheism. We don't directly teach evolution. We don't have a lesson on it at this point. We don't really see the need for it because it's already in high school curriculum. But if it comes up organically, it's not like we're going to avoid the subject. We just don't have something on it right now. We were founded by atheists, but actually our curriculum director is not an atheist. So that actually ends up being a good tool to use because, we tell people we don't think that she'd be very excited about creating all these lesson plans about atheism if she's not one and doesn't support it. But she's actually a biologist, so she digs this stuff. And again, our focus on critical thinking, problem solving, the scientific method, and a great line that I like to share with people who object with us is that critical thinking need not be in conflict with religious belief. And if it does, then you have a bigger problem than an after-school group for kids. You have a problem with the doctrine that you're believing. So all through this, the Good News Club was contacted by the media, and they refused to come on any of the radio shows that we were invited to. They refused to go on the news with any of the outlets that contacted us. They really actually refused to be interviewed, but they did end up providing kind of a recycled written response, which what I found when I Googled this response is that they've been using it for years. It mostly boils down to we've been doing this forever. The Bible's been teaching it forever, so yeah, that must be right. And the only thing that we're teaching kids is that Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I think we've heard that a million times. But this was kind of their defense, and this was their response to us. So we continued to, during this whole thing, continued to observe Good News Clubs. And what I said earlier about, I was going to get back to this. So aside from the classes, the Atheist Community of Rochester members kept going to Good News Clubs because we did want to send the message that we weren't just going once or twice. We were going to go every time. At the time, they were organizing monthly. So an important note, when we originally came to the superintendent and we said, hey, this Good News Club is in the school that you're in charge of. Do you know what they're doing? And the superintendent didn't know anything about it. So we filled her in on kind of the curriculum that we found on the internet. There's a lot of it out there. If you haven't seen it, please look it up. And some of the activities that they do where they're teaching kids that they're evil, that they're sinners and deserving of death. And we said, hey, doesn't this amount to intimidation? Isn't this a violation of your policy? Maybe you should investigate this. So the superintendent contacted the local Good News Club leaders and asked them about it. And the local Good News Club said, we don't use CEF materials. And this is important because the leaders of the Good News Club in every area sign a contract that says you have to use CEF materials in order to set up their group. So right off the bat, that tells us a couple things. It tells us, well, they're lying to the superintendent, and also tells us they must know there's something wrong with what they're doing if they want to lie about it, right? So we kind of put that in our back pocket, and we said, all right, well, we're going to keep looking at these classes, and we're going to take notes, and we're going to see if we see the same things in these groups that we see when we, when we look at the curriculum online. So in our first visit, it was just one of the people from ACOR went and had handlers assigned. He contacted the Good News Club before he went and said, hey, I want to go to this group. How do I do it? Where do I go? So he gets there, and he ends up having 2 handlers assigned to him. Part of Good News Club meetings is that they start and have like a big group activity. Then they break out into sessions with like one volunteer from the community who's involved with Good News Club and about 5 or 6 kids. So they break up into all these little sessions, and they do an activity where they are usually memorizing Bible verses because that's helpful in our lives. So the individual that went to this from our group was not allowed to go into those breakout sessions. So, that again tells us there's something going on that they don't want us to see, which of course is not great. So on the second visit, we sent another member the next month, and she was denied entry to the meetings altogether. They met her at the door, and they said, you're not allowed to come in. They told her that they needed it was either 2 weeks or 4 weeks notice before we would come, which of course was against policy because the school policy said it was open to the public. Didn't say anything about notifying them ahead of time. When she was there, she noticed that someone was carrying a big sign that said consequences into the cafeteria where all the kids were. So we're pretty sure that had something to do with why she wasn't allowed in. We kept going, and we started going with a bigger group. So on our third and fourth visits, there was a table in the cafeteria with a little visitors tag on it for us to sit at. So the message got to them that we were coming back, that were to let us in, and it was very obvious when we were there that everyone was prepped because no one would look at us or talk to us. And then in the 5th visit, they realized we're still going to still be coming. So they went through this whole spiel where the CEF director was there, met us at the door, came up with this contract, which was like a total unprofessional printed out piece of paper that said that if we were to enter, we couldn't take pictures, we couldn't take audio recordings, we couldn't even touch our cell phones, and we had to stay quiet and out of the way. Since it's open to the public, we were not obligated to sign anything. We refused to sign. He told us that he was going to call the police if we didn't sign. So we said, go ahead. And the county sheriffs came, and it was, a fun time. And he then lied to the county sheriffs and said that we were there disrupting the meeting and that we needed to be escorted out. The sheriff didn't believe him and took off. So. So we were allowed to stay, and after this, we were subjected to stare downs, and people still taking pictures of us, these mystery phone calls, and again, no dialogue. So, after a while, we're like, well, how about we take pictures of them while they're taking pictures of us? Oh, am I not working? There we go. So after the incident with the police, I did a write-up on my website, DividedUnderGod.com, called Good News Club Discovers It's Harder to Intimidate Adults Than Children. I sent this out to the local media because I really wanted some local attention on this, and a local newspaper was the first to report it, did a little write-up about what happened and tried to, again, reach out to the Good News Club for comment, kind of got the same thing. But after that, a local CBS affiliate contacted me and finally got the same CEF director on camera to make a statement. And I have a clip of that. And you'll see in there that they focus on the legality of being there rather than kind of responding to the allegations of abuse.
It's behind two after-school clubs at a Churchville Chili Elementary School are at odds. The Young Skeptics is an atheist group. The Good News Club is an evangelical Christian children's group. Alison Norleon explains why they're quarreling.
Kevin, it's perfectly legal for people of all beliefs to have meetings at public schools. This past January in Churchville Chili, a group of Rochester atheists formed the Young Skeptics Club. They say they don't push atheism on anyone. They want to be an alternative to the Christian Good News Club.
It's not that we have an issue with religious instruction. We have an issue with the practices of the Good News Club.
Kevin Davis is one of the founders of the Young Skeptics.
Young Skeptics is an after-school program for elementary-aged kids. We focus on critical thinking skills and problem-solving, evidence-based learning.
Young Skeptics see themselves as an alternative to the Good News Club. They meet in the Churchville Chili Elementary School. Good News is an after-school program of the Child Evangelism Fellowship, an international missionary organization founded in 1937.
They've been known to be a group that uses kind of psychologically abusive tactics, and that they work to tear down a child's self-worth and self-esteem by telling them that they're inherently flawed, that they are sinners, and that they're deserving of death.
Bob Fisher is state director for the Child Evangelism Fellowship.
I think that at that age, they do know the difference between right and wrong. And we don't stress that. We stress more the love of God.
Fisher says his club teaches Bible lessons through song, scripture, and games, and that they aren't going anywhere.
I don't believe that they can stop us from having the club. You know, there's actually Supreme Court rulings that we can have the club, and they're not going to be able to change that.
Fisher thinks kids like coming to the Good News Club. Davis thinks Young Skeptics give kids a choice. And neither group is affiliated with the Churchville Chili School District. They just use the school as a venue. Alison Norleon, News 8.
So you notice there that they focused on him fiddling with his hands and kind of nervously. So I really appreciated that they did that and kind of made him look like a total creeper. And he obviously had something to hide, and he was a little bit nervous about having to talk on the news. So I guess this is what you're thinking, right? What can we do? It's the most popular question I get. What can we do in our local community? What can we do with if there's a Good News Club, and how can we start a Young Skeptics group? So I get that a lot. The first thing you can do is work to protect local children. And you can do that by contacting the CEF, going to their website. They have a handy little search there where you can search by your zip code or city and state and find out where the CEF is in your area. Their phone numbers, email addresses, everything's up there. You can contact them and find out what school the Good News Club is in. Ask the school district for a copy of their facilities use policy. Take a look at that and see if there's a clause in there that says something about intimidation or bullying or things like that. And then go to the meetings. They should be open to the public. Go and make notes. Make sure they know you're there, and report violations back to your school district, your superintendent, and we can all fight these guys together, and we can make sure that people are watching and observing what they're doing. The next thing you could do is to start a local Good News, don't do that. A local Young Skeptics chapter. I do that all the time. For this year, what we did, and last year was kind of a pilot in our area. So for this year, what we did is we pulled back. We're not in the school this year. We're taking all of our resources and we're concentrating on packaging our curriculum, what we have so far, adding to it, and putting together kind of a little kit that we can hand off to other organizations so they can start their own Young Skeptics clubs. I've had free thought groups from around the country already contact me and ask me how they can start a club, what we can do, what we can share with them, and we decided that we're going to be far more effective if we're not focusing on our little community, and we're kind of spreading out and getting more groups started, and we can affect more kids and get out there easily. So that's what we're doing now. Like I said, assembling a club starter kit. We've laid the groundwork. We've trademarked everything. We've written some curriculum. We're thinking of having other groups under our insurance umbrella. We're investigating that to see if that's feasible, or if groups have to get their own insurance and things like that, so we can try to take those startup headaches away. So we have more to come. So stay tuned to the Young Skeptics website, which is youngskeptics.net. You can find out what we're doing, how far we're getting. Send me an email. I'll get you on the list of, if you want to start a group, I'll get you on the list of people that want to start a group, and we'll talk about it and see, what the feasibility is of that and where we are. Here's how to contact me. Here's how to keep in touch with Young Skeptics. We have a Facebook group and the website. And that is pretty much it. So thank you, everyone, for staying on Sunday afternoon.
Thanks. It's awesome. Thanks for coming up.